Welcome to another episode of Paul Takes Photos. Yes, and I'm Paul, I take photos, hence the episode. This episode is all going to be about the Leica TL produced in 2014, which I only picked up recently for the grand prize of 400 euros. So you have a Leica for 400 euros. Now the question is this Leica actually still good? Does it really perform? How does it behave? And is it worth the Leica experience? That's what we're going to talk about in this episode. Leica TL was manufactured in 2014, people. Yes, nearly a decade ago, and it was made out of aluminum. Everything is aluminum. It's one block of aluminum, as you can see. The sensor comes in with an APS-C sensor, 16 megapixels, which is great, I think. It has a battery life of between 350-450 shots. So that normally would serve you, at least if you're not continuously shooting, for a good afternoon of fun. The autofocusing system is somewhat dated now, has about 9 autofocus points, I think. It isn't that good, I'll tell you on that, more on that later on. And it doesn't come with a viewfinder, and we'll go into that a little bit as well. How does it impact your photography, and do you need that viewfinder? Now, one of the things about the Leica TL is that because it's so seamlessly integrated, Leica has chosen to actually manufacture probably one of the best touchscreens I've ever seen on a camera. It really is like you're having a camera with a mobile phone display. It is simple to use, it's extremely responsive, the menus are well thought out, so you don't need a lot of buttons on your camera, and that's the Leica motto: do more with less. If you look at the lens offerings, you can obviously go for the Leica native experience. That tends to be quite costly, to be very honest. Those lenses are definitely not cheap, but you can always upgrade later because you've got L-mount lenses and manual lenses you can put on. L-mount lenses are produced by Sigma, Panasonic, and you know, that covers a lot of ground. The L-mount is also the mount for the full-frame Panasonic camera, so you have a lot of offerings there for a bit more competitive prices, especially used, than the Leica lenses, which even used can be quite expensive. As I just said, the touchscreen is absolutely fantastic on this camera. The brightness of the LCD, which is really baked in to the entire body, is, for me, it really does the job, but it would be nice to have a retractable screen, so upwards, but that in 2014 would have probably been asking a bit too much, and I'm not so sure Leica is actually willing to do that. And then there's the two buttons on top of the camera. It basically is the aperture and the shutter buttons. You can swap them, but that's about it. There's no function buttons anywhere, so it's a very basic design. If you want to change your ISO, you just tap on the menu and you easily change it, so it doesn't take you, flipping through all kind of menus or something. It doesn't. I found that to be absolutely fantastic, really well designed. I'm not sure what your opinion is. Yeah, leave a comment below, because I'm also curious what other Leica shooters or potential shooters would like to know. If you have a question, also drop it down in the comments below and I'll respond as fast as I can. Now we go into the fun part, which is really, how did this camera behave when I was actually using it? Walking on the streets, yeah. So I pair it with my 56mm Sigma lens, which is arguably one of the better lenses around. But you never know what you get out of it. So I paired it with that, walked around with it. Two things that I really noticed, and I think that's important, which I really want to share that because it's important. The first thing, what I just mentioned, the autofocus in continuous, is really backdated. It's difficult to get focus, a lot of focus breathing and hunting, not that pleasant. If you switch over to single autofocus and you change your metering mode as well to spot, then it becomes suddenly very useful. And at times it still hunts, but that's normally when it's when you're dealing with deep shadows or underexposed, then you see it hunts a bit, so you have to adjust your exposure. That's one of the things that I really noticed, and I wasn't that happy with the camera at first because of the actual focus breathing, but I thought, instead of reselling it immediately, let's keep it and let's try to work out how I can make this camera work for me. And I'm happy I made that decision, to be very honest. I'm very happy because it's a great shooting experience I'm getting now. So that's the first thing. Let me know in the comments if you've actually experienced the same. The second part is the colors here. Leica is often referred to as Leica colors, etc, etc, etc. But to be very honest, I went into the actual color profiles you can basically choose, and there's not that many of them. You can't really add your own color profile either. You can still make the adjustments within the color profile, but it's all very basic, but it serves a purpose. My two favorite color profiles, one is the neutral colors. You see examples flying by here, which I found breathtaking, to be very honest. I'm used to Fujifilm simulations, some great color rendering there. Ricoh GRIII-x, fantastic film profiles as well, specifically the black and white. I was never a black and white photographer, but thanks to Ricoh, I'm more moving into that direction. And now on this Leica as well, when you take the black and white high contrast and you bunk up the contrast a bit, oh man, it's fantastic. It completely changes a picture. A few examples flying by there, but I really, really like it. I'm like, wow, this is kind of different. It's very deep and it gives kind of a dramatic or sometimes like really isolating feeling to a picture which normally would be bland. So that is definitely something that I really like. Let me know in the bottom, in the comments below, whether or not you have similar experiences, or basically if you know a way to kind of add and tweak the actual colors. Yes, I know I have to go into the white balance, but it would be great if you can share that with me. Yeah, then there's one other thing as well when shooting with the Leica. I noticed when you stop down to f8 or above, you know, in this kind of conditions like now, so it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you then bunk up your shutter speed up to 1/250 to 1/500 or even higher. You put your ISO on 200. It's amazing how this camera still renders so much detail, yeah, and how it renders the colors. Now, unfortunately, dynamic range isn't the best. I'm going to be honest about that, but I think in Leica that's most of the time, because it's, and they're not landscape photography cameras, they're normally more for street portrait and all this kind of stuff. So I really was surprised about dynamic range. I personally don't find it a showstopper. If you shoot at f16, you get most of it anyways, but it's maybe not picture perfect when you go into it, but I don't care. So I really feel that this camera has actually surprised me positively in many ways. The one thing I would like to see changed is maybe the viewfinder. You have to buy that separately, and here's the thing. This camera, I think, was designed for people not to use a viewfinder, just like the Ricoh GR series are. You can have them as an additional, let's say, point on it, or an addition that you can buy, but A, it's very expensive, and B, I don't know if I really need it. I'm so used, thanks to the Ricoh GR series, to shooting just from the LCD. I did it with a TL as well, and I kind of like it. I'm not sure what your position on it is, so let me know in the comments below, because aside from the price, it kind of changes something when you go through a viewfinder. Normally I love viewfinder cameras, it's kind of a hard requirement, but with the TL and the GRs, somehow my perspective on this has completely changed. That's it for today. If you liked it, let me know, and if you have any questions, let me know too. Thank you.